Chattanooga Civic Center at Mountainside here at 701 Hooker Road. You know where we are, where we do it live and we do it raw. So today, we are so pleased to be here today because we have a very special guest all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. And we are just excited about what her organization is doing. We're going to bring her on in just a minute. Miss Rafiah Muhammad-McCormick. Isn't she beautiful? She is spearheading the convention that they're having here at the Civic Center next week. And the name of the organization is Tennesseans for Alternative to Death Penalty. And they have formed a collaboration with another organization. I'm going to let her talk all about it in just a moment. But for today, right now, I just want to say thank you again for all the things that this community has done, pouring out love to Alton Park Development Corporation, pouring out love to National Action Network. We have got a host of things that we have done since we last talked to you, since the formation of the National Action Network. And we are going to be ready to roll, hit the ground running in December. And in January, we're going to roll out our master plan for this community here in the scenic city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are just ecstatic and we are ready to roll. We've got many, many members that have joined since we did our induction ceremony. So kudos to all of you new members. And we are constantly getting calls from folks that are signing up for the National Action Network. I think people are hungry for change. People are hungry for knowledge, wisdom, and empowerment. That's what it's really all about. So I want to thank all of you for everything you've done, our professional people who are working with us to do some of the things that we know NAN is known for. For example, getting people records expunged, getting their driver's license reinstated, jobs after jobs after jobs. I'm talking about jobs with training. We are excited about it. Families working together to improve the quality of life in this community is where it's all about. And we've got so many experts in the city of Chattanooga that have just gravitated to us. And we are going to put out or roll out this plan for 2025 moving forward in December next month. So you all stay tuned because it is big. I did a major conference call with some folks here in Chattanooga, and that's their job, to train people to work in various professional careers and get them job placement. So we're just excited about that opportunity. And so without further ado, I want to bring on the station right now with you from Nashville, Tennessee, Miss Rafiah Muhammad-McCormick. Good morning, or now it's afternoon. Hello, darling.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here, and your energy is
Yeah,
that's for me today.
Yeah, we are excited, Miss McCormick, because we know that you are doing great things around the state of Tennessee and you're bringing it to Chattanooga. And we are just excited about your conference that you're going to have, your panel discussion. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about you, Rafiah. Where are you from and some of your background that you have that gives you some credibility? Because people want to know who are you and what gives you credibility to speak to us about what you're talking about. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, I am not an original Tennessean. I was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan, home of the Spartans. Woo-hoo.
Hey.
Yeah, I did 25 years as an automotive engineering manager. So
Wait, you say engineer? Are you an engineer?
Yeah, I was an engineer for in the automotive industry, and did also large off-highway trucks with Caterpillar, and made snow groomers that were in Aspen Mountain. So I've been all over the world and all over the country in that arena. But prior to jumping into that career, before I had I gotta do some changes in my life. I'm a preacher's kid. My father is a Muslim imam, and you know how some of us preacher kids, we got to go try to find out the hard way. So
oh yeah, I know about that. My granddaddy was a preacher too. I already know what you've been through.
Yeah, so I was a teenage parent, dabbled a little bit in drug dealing to try to take care of the kids, and who had a brush with the law and was like, okay, I got to get this together. And so got into manufacturing, was able to get promoted from within. I did wind up getting my degree at Governor State University in Illinois.
Hey,
And yeah, loved it. And then my son was killed in
wow.
2020.
So we're
And
going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Tell me about your organization and the other organizations that have joined arms with you for this amazing event that's happening next Friday and Saturday here in Chattanooga at the Chattanooga Civic Center. Tell us a little bit about the name of it, the origin, and what you
okay,
all, your mission and your
okay.
goal.
Okay. Well, the organization that I work with is called Tennesseans for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. I'm the director of community outreach, and our mission is that we value life, to truly honor life. The death penalty needs to be abolished. That the alternatives are that we are doing more to focus on prevention and intervention and supporting victims. We found that many people that have done harm or people that were harmed first that are not supported. So that's the organization I work with. But the other organization, Mothers Over Murder, I've been with them since my son was killed. Came to them first as a mother in need, and they were there to provide that grief support. And their mission is that they're not only a grief group, but they're an action group. And
Okay.
so it was kind of like I'm in this position of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But when I was able to get employed, transitioned my career from automotive into this advocacy work and activism, and was able to get a job with Tennesseans for Alternatives to Death Penalty. I saw it as, and they gave me the reign to be able to. We support victims, so we want to support the work that you're doing with Mothers Over Murder, and so that is what kind of birthed this beautiful collaboration between the two organizations.
Wow. So, I want to speak to that, that support that the families who have endured both sides, the family who was injured due to the violence, and also the family that actually were the perpetrators of the crime. Because when I met you and I met your daughter, you came to Chattanooga, and I'm going to be very transparent. Your daughter is still healing.
Yeah,
She was still angry.
yeah,
She was still angry, and because it was her brother
yes,
that was murdered, your child that was murdered, her brother, and she was still dealing with the fact that she felt anyway that you in this organization wasn't really addressing the hurt that this other family, which they didn't do it, their child did it also, had caused on your son and your family. And she was still angry, and she spoke the anger. She didn't understand you. She didn't understand why. So my thing is, with your organizations, and you were saying that you're dealing with that whole concept of how do we get people healed beyond the incident or beyond the murder, the violence. That's what I want to kind of deal with, because people are hurting out there. And this is the conference that people need to come to so they can understand, first of all, the processes. And I want you to kind of walk us through that and where you are with your family right now, and how many years ago it's been since your son was murdered, and how are you working with his family?
Yeah, some of my family, including my daughter, are still in their stages of healing. I mean, healing does not end, nor does when you start to get on a journey of forgiveness, that takes different phases as well. Um, I call the day that Rodney was killed. It's only been a little bit over 4 years, July 9th, 2020.
I'm sorry.
Um, yeah, Rodney was shot in my backyard while he was having a pool party. He did die probably about a couple hours later at the hospital. And I call it my day of reckoning. And I also call it the day that I was also blessed because, um, unlike many victims, even those victims that decide to pursue something different, as far as I'm very passionate about restorative justice, even those people that are are able to look beyond their pain and their hurt and realize this is something bigger than them and something bigger than the person they lost.
Yes.
Even those people, it takes them a long time to get to that space. But what happened in my situation, and I feel like everything is ordained by God, and that everything happens for a reason. I came home shortly when the pool party was just starting. I had just returned home from work, and I did global process management. So I was on the phone all the time with clients in other countries. So I would get up like 4 o'clock in the morning and, start with conference calls, head into the office. I usually got home from the office about 6, and I usually would take a quick nap, to be able to get recalibrated and
Right.
make some dinner and stuff like that. And so, I came home, I told Rodney, I'm getting ready to take a nap. Now, normally he didn't have company, but this was when COVID had the world was just opening back up, when they were saying it was okay for you to be around people again. And so we had just beautified our yard because we had just been doing that during quarantine.
Yes.
And so I told him, I'm getting ready to take a quick nap. Since it was only a few guests, I was like, can y'all just make sure y'all keep it down and y'all be gone when I wake up, because I got some stuff I got to do. And I woke up a half hour later to the gunshots.
Wow.
And when I made it outside, it was the only people that was left was Rodney. And unbeknownst to me, Rodney had been shot, and unbeknownst to me, the person who I thought he was wrestling with had shot him. And so, us moms, we get out there like, what the is going on? So I went out there to separate them, and Rodney fell to the ground, and the boy reached down to pick up his gun. And before he left the backyard, while I was laying over Rodney's to protect him, I had locked eyes with the young man. And I remember saying, please don't. And there was a look back of remorse. And he said something, ma'am. Like something like, this wasn't playing, ma'am. I didn't mean this, ma'am. Something, ma'am, before he ran out the backyard. And so, unfortunately, for the members, some of the people in my family who are not like my daughter, who are still very much in pain, they didn't have the opportunity. And most victims don't have that. All they have is the monster in their mind who has committed this horrific offense against them, who has taken something that is extraordinarily precious from them. But God gave me that opportunity to see that remorse. And that never left me, even as we navigated the criminal proceedings, even in my own anger, even in the space of the defense doing everything they could to paint this as, this young man felt scared, or they even had alluded that I had the ability the reason that there was no weapon found of my son's and no bullets from any weapon that he had discharged, that I had enough time to hide these things, to find these bullets in the grass and hide them. And that's why there was no evidence that Rodney did something to make this young man be in fear. And so had I not locked eyes with him and seen that glimpse of remorse, all I had would have to focus on was the defense doing whatever they could to save this young man's life. And that's most often what happens with victims. They're mad because the defense is throwing everything they can. And when they're doing that, they taint the picture of the person that you love. They taint your own. They attack you as a person. And because they're trying to save this person's life.
Right.
And so the victim in itself is even more traumatized. We're given two situations. The victim is traumatized by the defense trying to save this person's life. And the defense in trying to save this person's life almost sets up a situation where even if that person wants to take account, that they can't. Mm-hmm. They can't look like they are feeling bad for what they've done. They can't no longer, that remorse cannot be shown. Even if it's inside of their car or in their homes at night, they can't show that because now I'm fighting for my life. Right. And so some of my family, what you witness is that my daughter, who is still going through her own healing process. She felt that the idea that I came up with a restorative piece to be added to the sentence, she feels as though the court system made me do this. And that's not what happened. God sent me this vision while we were at the end of the sentencing agreements. We weren't put in a position, I will admit this, we were put in a position where the district attorney, because there were all the other witnesses had left out of the backyard and they were friends with both my son and this boy, were not really being forthcoming with what happened. In fact, they would post on social media. One day they would post, and this is during the trial and stuff, the criminal proceeding. They will post one day, "Long live Rodney, LLRA, long live Rodney Armstrong," and the next day they would say, "Free the young man that killed him." And so those young people were torn in themselves.
Yes.
And so I took all of that as the perfect picture of what, and I shouldn't say picture, the perfect synopsis of what so many families were struggling with. And so while in my hurt and my anger and feeling like the district attorney was going to accept a sentence that we were not, as a family and as myself, were not approving of, I felt to take control of this situation that God sent me. So all I did was ask God. I'm like, this is crazy. Our son has been killed and this young man has killed him. And, he's not being, we're dickering and dealing. We're playing check.
Our ways are not God's ways. And I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Now, 4 years ago, when your son's life was taken, at what age was your son and what age was the young man who was the aggressor or the person who committed this crime?
So my son was 29. My son, the people that were in the backyard, my son had adopted a younger brother as his younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He was dating the young man's girlfriend, and so he adopted this young man. And the boy that actually killed Rodney was a good friend of that boy that Rodney had adopted. So they were younger. They were 21. They were 21 years old. The two young men, and I'm not sure of the ages of the girls that they had, but they were all couples.
Okay.
Before the shooting broke out, they were sitting around as couples around the fire pit, laughing and giggling and
having fun.
That's the vision I left with that I had on my mind, and was the reason why I did not tell them, "Hey, y'all go home," because it was laughter, it was happy, it was joyous.
How quickly the scenes will change. Yes, how quickly things change.
Yeah.
And so now you're dealing with the fact that your son's life has been taken from him and from you. I mean, his life was taken from you and his sister and your family. And now you're at the table. You have the oh Lord, I can't even imagine the position you were in to say, okay, we're going to do something about it. But in doing something about it, I want this person who killed my son to have a second chance. And these are the things that I want to happen. So talk a little bit about your program and what does your organization do in terms of remediation or, I would say second chance type things for people who do things. And then does the families have to agree, or is this something that the families do on their own, or is it something?
So I need to clarify that journey was not out. Had nothing to do with any organizations. No organization is officially has this. No organization was involved officially in this capacity at first.
At time,
it came as a vision from God that I saw so let me clarify. The boy that had killed my son was originally charged with second-degree murder. Because of the fact that They were getting ready to drop permitless carry in Tennessee during this time. From my understanding, that Governor Lee, and I've done a little research on this to see if this is actually legitimate, but from my understanding, Governor Lee,
the governor of Tennessee.
Governor Lee, the governor of Tennessee, had sent out an edict to the prosecutors that if a person was involved with a gun crime and it was less than murder and they had no prior offenses, that they were not served less than 1 year in prison and no more than 6. That was what was presented to me. Now, if that was true, I don't know.
But there was a murder involved. So in Tennessee,
I took, because when we were going through all this, I had been presented with a plea of voluntary manslaughter that he would, because at first he was fighting second-degree murder.
Okay.
And we wound up accepting the plea of first degree of voluntary manslaughter, because we were under the impression that he was going to get at least 15 years. And then at the time of sentencing, when the sentencing increments came in, it became significantly less. And so in the space of that anger and frustration with what had been done to me, and this is a matter of moments. This wasn't over time. Like, I was literally standing in the lobby of the district attorney's lobby, pissed as hell. Like, what is going on? And all of a sudden, a vision from God came, and I saw the organization that provides me grief support, their founder, Clemmy Greenlee. I saw her mentoring this young man. She does already do work in the prisons. And so I saw her mentoring him. I saw this young man eventually one day sitting in circle with us mothers, taking account for what he did. And I also saw him eventually mentoring other young people, preventing them from getting in this space. And at that point, I received a message from God that this was bigger than me, and this was bigger than the person that killed him. That in order for us to stop the violence, that we have to cultivate the community. And so I just want to clarify that, because neither TADP nor Mothers Over Murder are officially part of the restorative. We support restorative justice, but that is not. We have mothers that are in various different spaces of grief. Yeah. And even though this is my vision, that's not necessarily their vision in this time of their healing process. There are organizations out there that do restorative practices, but when this vision came and I presented it to the court, I was not aware of those organizations, and nor was the court I was working with. They took my proposal, they presented it to the defense attorney, and from my understanding, the defense attorney actually recommended to his client not to accept my proposal.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about your proposal, because we want to know what was your proposal.
Yes. Is that I wanted it on paper that Nashville Peacemakers would be responsible for providing him this mentoring, that they would submit progress reports as part of his of showing that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing while he was behind bars, and once he was out on paper. And so the defense attorney did not recommend to his client to take this proposal, because he, in a sense, put himself in a position where somebody close to me was part of determining if he stays free.
Wow.
And or determine if he was
ever going to go to jail and do any time.
Well, they were only giving him a year, no more than 6. So he did do the year, but he could have did 6, depending on if Ms. Clemmy had submitted progress report saying that he wasn't, complying. When he got out on paper, if she submitted progress reports saying that he's not participating in the mentoring with him, he could go back to prison. And so the defense attorney recommended that he did not take this proposal, because they had already agreed. The defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney had already came to an agreement of this 1 year, 6 year parameters that Governor Lee had set up. So that was outside of my control. They did not have what I asked for, that restorative piece. That was not in lieu of, that was in addition to.
In addition to, okay. Okay,
Yeah, so that
I
was an
got
additional piece. A lot of people think that what I requested was to help him be free. No, it was to help him take account.
you. Yeah.
I asked for was in addition to what they already had gave
That
him.
was gonna be like his therapy and to
Mhm.
help him
Yeah,
to heal where he doesn't get involved again with something like that, and to also help him to help others
exactly.
that may find themselves in that situation. So, in actuality, you gave him something that he didn't have and that he
Exactly.
wouldn't have had. So
Yeah.
now that he's out, is my understanding the young man is out, correct?
Yeah.
Is he following up with the recommendation on the restorative piece that you put in as a part of his, I guess you would say, his punishment for what he did?
He meets with Miss Clemmy regularly. They have their counseling sessions. He's ready to meet with us. I'm ready to meet with him. But before remember the vision wasn't just me in the circle. It was other mothers as well.
Right.
And also, like you said, you witnessed my daughter is still in a space where she's not yet ready.
Not willing to accept meeting
Yeah,
with him.
and
I got
so we're waiting. We're waiting for that blessing before we bring him into the circle. But Miss Clemmy talks to him regularly. She's still submitting progress reports, and um, hopefully, with all of you and all of your prayers, we can start the next step, phase 2, where he is able to sit with us and be able to take account. I think mothers really need that, even if they're not in a space yet of forgiveness in their own case. But I think the mothers really need that so that they can see the
you.
other side, so that they can even and even start to even help with their healing. I think it's important.
Yes, yes. So now, okay, let's jump over to your organization. You all
Yeah.
meet in a circle, you mothers who have common, I guess you would say, common things that have happened in terms of death to your children or loved ones. Are you meeting with other individuals who have created or committed, should I say, these horrific crimes? Have you gotten to where you're meeting with those victims? I mean, those aggressors.
I think Miss Clemmy, she has a conversation with the person that killed her son. He is
Mhm.
incarcerated for another crime. I think inside of Mothers Over Murder, we're probably the only two. Now, I do some volunteer advocacy with an organization called Rafiah, who does restorative practices, and they're actually part of the sentencing program, I think, in the Davidson County Juvenile Division. And they actually have a few cases. It's hard to get the restorative piece added in this early. And I think this is also new in the murder space. It's new to Tennessee.
Right.
But if you research it, there's some phenomenal women that have been doing this across the country. Um, One
Yeah.
that comes to mind is a sister. Her name is Rukiye, Rukiye, and I'm not even gonna mess up her last name, but she was on Tamron Hall. If you ever Google her, I think she was one of my inspirations also in finding this space.
Yes. I'm interested. Your organization put together a piece of legislation and took
Yeah.
it to Nashville. And tell us a little bit about that piece of legislation and what it allows the organization to do and the families in Tennessee. Can you tell us a little bit about
Oh
that?
yeah. So I'm gonna try to make this quick as possible because I know I kind of get a little long-winded in this story because it's so
Well, it's
emotional.
good to tell your story so people would understand
Yeah.
the passion behind why you are working with
Yeah.
this organization. So I'm glad you got an opportunity to tell your story so that people understand who you are and how you're closely related to the other people who may be experiencing the same thing so that
Yeah.
you can help them. So that
Yeah.
was good. So now tell me about the legislation. Yeah.
Yeah, so in 2022, TADP, the organization I work for, Tennesseans for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, um, our primary legislation work had been related to death penalty work. We saved Purvis Payne with the intellectual disability bill that was passed. And then in 2022, a moratorium was put in place because a man by the name of Oscar Smith was about to be executed, and there were some issues in the final hour with the lethal injection protocol, which put the execution to a halt. And so since we were on pause, that allowed us to actually, as an organization, to actually really, really focus on the supporting victims side. And so I was doing research, and I found out that other organizations across the country, there was legislation being passed across the country related to victims' compensation. This came at the same time that I had just finished applying for my own victims' compensation and experienced some challenges, as well as sitting amongst mothers in our Mothers Over Murder group, who probably almost 80% of those individuals had been denied victims' compensation.
We're going to get into that later, but keep going on about this. Yeah, I want to know a little bit more about that compensation piece, because people, we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, so I did this research, and I spoke with Chairman Doggett. We spoke with Chairman Doggett, me as a representative of Mothers Over Murder, not just as a representative of TADP, and some other victims organizations, and talked to them about how people were being impacted. And he said, go and research everything that you can come up with. We're going to put as much in this bill as we can. And so we were able to come up with at least 4 things that everybody could agree on. And I say everybody, because we had DA's conference that was involved. We had the Treasury Department that was involved. That's part of that houses victims' compensation. And we were able to do 4 things. Number one, I think the most important for me as a victim of a murder was that we were able to enhance the eligibility of who gets compensated for funeral expenses. We find that people in disproportionately impacted communities, a lot of times, they don't have the money to bury their loved ones.
We see it all the time. Y'all see those GoFundMe pages when people die. They're not prepared for death. You're right about that.
And so they don't have insurance. They are depending on extended family members to help pay for the funeral. And so now, in the past, where there was no reimbursement given because the immediate family member wasn't the one to pay for it, now those extended family members can apply for reimbursement. And it goes all the way up to like great grandmother and a cousin, uncle, stuff like that. I don't have the full list in front of me, but that was the biggest piece. Another big piece, and I think this is very important, especially for, I would say, like college students and in neighborhoods where a lot of times the person that victim lives in the same space that the person that harmed them, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times the current requirement, or the earlier requirement before our legislation passed, was that you had to have a police report within 48 hours to apply for compensation. You had 2 years to apply for the compensation, but you had to have that police report completed within 48 hours. And
that's just 2 days.
Yeah, and a lot of people are still traumatized. They can't even believe they're a victim. They're processing that. And that was the worst in the country. 48 hours was we were one of the worst in the country. And so we were able to.
So you got that extended past 48 hours.
That extended to 2 weeks. So it's now 15 days that they are allowed to be able to get that police report completed.
Sometimes police reports are not even ready within 24 hours. They tell you to call and get the police report, but it's not complete. And sometimes
the police report, when we say police report, not getting the police report, you as a victim going to talk to the police had to be done within 48 hours. Not how long it took them to process. They can take years to process it. But that police report of you talking to the police had to be done. That initial conversation where they made that report had to be done within 48 hours. Now, that's not normally an issue in the cases of murder because the police are right there on the scene. But when you are victimized in the shadows, and it's dependent on you coming forward to the police to tell them that you've been a victim, those 48 hours may seem long to some people, but when it's already,
That's
you know, you're in the shadows. Who I don't have no witnesses. The
you still
witnesses
in the
might
bed
not.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out what just
yeah.
happened.
It's a
Right.
lot, and so you're even dealing with all that. So those 2 weeks is a big improvement. Now, one day there's some states, they give them the whole 2 years. However long it took you to that the amount of time they allow you to apply for victims compensation, as long as that uh, police report was done in that time, then
You're okay.
you're okay. But like I said, we got a significant improvement. This put us in the top one of the, I think, top 50% in the
Great.
country now. So it
Great
was a big
accomplishment.
improvement.
Great
Um,
accomplishment. So that's two pieces. And then what are the other two pieces of this?
The other one was that we enhanced the eligibility of who gets reimbursed for mental health counseling. Again, before it was only the victim or immediate family members. Now we're able to illustrate that anybody in the home, whether they're a blood relative or not, is impacted by that trauma, and
Yes.
so we want to support them getting the help that they need. Because again, as I cited earlier, most people that harm people were people that weren't harmed first or experienced trauma first, that didn't get the healing that they needed. And so
Absolutely.
that's a big piece. And the
Is
last
there
one,
a cap on the amount of money for these things as far as
um, I know the funeral expenses is capped at $6,000. I'm not sure the dollar amount for the mental health piece, but overall, there's a cap overall, depending on how many categories you're applying in, of $30,000.
okay.
So there's multiple categories like moving expenses and things like that that are already that we didn't touch in this bill, but that were already there to
Okay.
help victims. So the criminal injuries compensation is a great piece. We just need to get more people approved, because we had a 70% denial rate in
Wow.
Tennessee.
So what
70.
are you seeing any improvement in that?
Well,
With
the
people
law
getting
just
approved?
went into effect a couple of months ago, so we don't have the
Okay.
numbers yet to be able to quantify that.
So
But
next year we'll come back and talk about those numbers.
next year we'll come back and talk about these numbers. But then also with our research, we found out, and as talking, we found out that most people, 90% of victims were not even applying, period, either because they did not know that the criminal injuries compensation fund existed, or because they were discouraged because of our denial rate. So they didn't even apply.
So
And
I know you got another piece to this piece of legislation, but let's back up a minute. Then we're going to get back to that third and fourth piece.
yeah,
Walk us through what it looks like in getting compensation. What office do you go to? Who do you talk to? Is there something online that people can apply
yeah.
once they have experienced what you went through, that'll get them straight into the system to get their compensation started?
So it's the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund has a URL. You can Google Tennessee Criminal Injuries Compensation, and it'll take you directly to the application process. That's if you're just doing it straight yourself, one-on-one, just applying. Excuse me. Other ways that people can apply is that if they're working with a victim's advocate. The DA's office also provides a victims coordinator that can help the individual go through the application process. And Chattanooga, now this is really one of the things I found to be just extraordinary. Chattanooga is the only city that I've come across where your police department victim witness coordinator is heavily, heavily, heavily involved in helping that victim, probably almost as much as the DAs, if not more. Is
Kudos to Chattanooga. Did you all hear that?
Chattanooga.
We got a person from Nashville, the capital of the state of Tennessee, from Nashville, saying that Chattanooga is on the leading edge of having the support system in place in our police department for victims. So they are to have so I hope when you all come here next week for your conference, that you will have someone from the
definitely.
police department and the sheriff department's victims unit department that will be a part of this conference to talk about that.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Not only are we going to have the victim witness coordinator from the police department that's going to be sharing what that process looked like and how her staff helps victims get. And it's the reason why I say that's very important at the police department is because that's usually that first, that's the first person that person is going to contact, that victim is going to have contact with.
Right.
In the legal portion. The DA's office, usually, they victims witness coordinator usually does not get involved until we know who committed the crime. Now the DA has somebody to prosecute. But do know this, you can apply for criminal injuries compensation even if we don't know who has harmed you. There does not have to be being prosecuted right now. We don't have to know who the suspect is for you to apply for criminal injuries compensation in the state of Tennessee. So it's very important that Chattanooga is doing this. I hope that the other cities here and they also realize how important it is, and hopefully they can benchmark what that looks like. But yeah, they're gonna be at the conference. The Treasury Department is going to be at the conference as well. We're going to have the directors from the Treasury Department, and that's who houses the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund. Corvell, who is the third party that processes these claims, they are underneath the Treasury Department. And so we're going to have those directors that are going to be at the conference that are going to be educating our victims in person with hands-on training of how to apply, what type of documents are required, how to navigate challenges. Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's phenomenal, Ms. McCormick. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Right here at the Chattanooga Civic Center, you all will be hosting your, I would call it, is it a statewide or citywide conference here to educate people about first of all, about all the resources that are available to assist these families with so many different things that they'll need. They'll need the support. They'll need the mental help. They'll need the whole division of the police department and the district attorney's office. They'll need so many people to wrap around them to get them through the process. And money is always, when someone is murdered, especially when they're young, money is always a problem, especially these days. We talk about it all the time. People don't think they're going to die that early, especially become a victim of crime. And it happens, and people are not prepared for it. So when it comes to where do we get the funds to cover this? Do we have to pay things up front? I hope the funeral homes, here we go. I hope the funeral homes will be involved, because they're the ones that the money has to go to when it comes to burying them. And they're the ones you got to negotiate with. So I would hope that at some point in time that, and you can talk about this.
Yeah, you know what? In fact, let's use that plug right now. If there is a funeral home listening to this broadcast, we don't have a funeral home on the panel, but I would love to make room for you on the panel so that you can talk about how you support victims, because you are one of the first people that
we're gonna get you somebody. That's gonna be one of my things to do. And we have several, but there are, and I don't want to I would alienate any funeral homes, but there are two major African American, and not to eliminate any, because I'm an African American, so I just happen to know that there are 2 or 3 major African American funeral homes in Chattanooga, and many funeral homes that basically deal with others, cultures, that if they're listening, we're going to be reaching out to get them to join in with this effort to help people who find themselves in this travesty, I would call it, or situation where they need them to sign on and say, we will do X, Y, Z, knowing that the funds is there to compensate them after the services are done. Because sometimes they won't even start on it unless the money is there. And
Yeah.
if the victims have to go through a process of getting the funds of reimbursement after it's paid for, then that might also be a stumbling block. So we're
Yeah.
looking for that gap there, you
Yeah.
know, because if they got to show reimbursements first to get the money, well, show where they paid for it to get the money back. It's people sitting on ice right now that's been sitting on ice for a month or two
Yeah.
because the people don't have the money to even pay for it.
Yeah. And that's a sorrowful part. I don't know about Chattanooga. I know we were planning on having, and we like you said, this now Heal People is a statewide campaign. We kicked it off in Memphis in August because that's one of the cities that's most impacted right now with
Mhm.
violence. And then we came here to Chattanooga. But when we did Memphis, we were looking actually to have a funeral home to be part of that. And we had received the response back that the funeral homes there, they were originally not charging victims that $6,000 fee because they knew they were going to be able to get it back from the state. But because of the fact that the denials were so high at 70%,
Oh wow, denials from the state to pay for it.
the
So
denial, yeah, because so since that 70% denial rate that I talked about earlier, that victims were being denied because they didn't have appropriate whatever the things
right.
needed. Since so many of them were getting denied, we had a lot of funeral homes that were left on the hook for
And then
that
get the money
money.
back.
Yeah,
So
get that money
so
back.
is this a matter of, because a lot of times when you fill out applications for stuff, if you
Yeah,
don't cross the T, dot the I, circle the you'll get denied for any little thing. So is this a thing where we maybe could have a coordinator to help walk people through to
so
make
that's
sure
why
that
they're
those
gonna
forms
be.
are done
Yeah,
correctly? And from
that's
the get-go, tell them you're not going to get the $6,000 because of they're
yeah.
like a check mark that you can go down to make sure that they qualify for this money before the funeral homes take on I guess, the expense of burying these people loved ones
Yeah,
without having any money up front.
yeah. Um, that definitely, the funeral homes probably definitely could do that. One of the biggest hurdles that we also are seeing as well is that, and this does contribute to the denial process, is when it depends on that police report is a big factor. If there's stuff in that police report that implies that your loved one contributed to what
Mhm.
happened, that also can impact. And there's nothing that we can do about that at this time.
Right.
That would be future legislation, and that's not to say that's not possible. There are some states that have passed legislation in that arena of what does culpability actually. How do we define culpability? How do we define contribution? And so that's another piece. But I think that's excellent. Excellent you bring that up. I think that's some conversation that we actually probably need to be having with the funeral
Absolutely.
home industry. And then we've been kind of talking about what that looks like. We haven't hit that space yet, but that's probably something that's probably needs to be moved up on our list of conversations. And like I said, if you know a funeral home out there that would like to be a part of this
I'm gonna
conference,
filter all of them that's out there, but specifically,
okay,
I know 2 or 3 that comes to the top of my head
yeah,
right off the
yeah,
bat that I'll be making that phone call to,
yeah,
and they may already know about the victim's
yeah,
compensation, but may not know a lot of detail about how they can get their money back once
yeah.
they have buried the loved ones. And we know that
And we're
funeral
going to have the directors. We're going to have the treasury directors are going to be at the conference, and so those funeral home people can ask them
they need to come
directly.
out.
They
They
got to
need
come
to come
out
out.
and can ask directly to those treasury directors what it is that we need to submit to make sure that we're getting that money. But it is a matter of the victim providing a police report, and autopsy reports and how they paid and statements
Right.
and financials. And there's a couple of different documents that are required, but I'm looking forward to hearing the Treasury be able to illustrate that in effect in
And
the
how much
space.
money, Rafiah, how much money is usually per year is allocated for these types of reimbursements? Is it $1 million? Is it 2 million?
Um,
20 million? Because Tennessee
I
is a
don't.
really big state. Is
Yeah,
there a
Tennessee is a
budget, a
big
line
state.
item budget on the governor's,
Yeah,
budget that puts this money
yeah.
aside for victims?
Now, first off, I do need to clarify because a lot of people think this is taxpayer money, and it is not taxpayer money. This is
And
not
where the money
taxpayer
come
money.
from?
Victim criminal injuries compensation is funded on a federal and on a state level from monies collected from people who have committed a crime. So when they pay fines and fees, no matter how little your offense is, traffic violations or whatever,
Oh,
those
very
fines and
interesting.
those fines and fees go into this bucket that funds the criminal injuries compensation. Like I said, this is both on the federal level and on the state level. So right now,
They
and it's
collect a lot of money from folks when they go to court.
yeah,
So
so they exactly. So 70, I think it's 70% of the fund is funded from the DOJ, I believe.
Department of Justice.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then the remaining 30% comes from the state level.
Okay. All right. That's very nice. So there were two other pieces to this piece of legislation that you all worked so hard to get passed. We've covered the first two or three. Give us a little insight about the last couple of pieces of this piece of legislation.
I would say, well, the last piece of on the legislation was what constituted as a police report. Before, they were only accepting police reports from your local police precinct. But we have found that there are various other law enforcement agencies, TADP, TBI, for instance,
Yeah.
cold case situations, things like that. So they enhance. Now I don't have that list in front of me, but they have enhanced what constitutes as a police report. So that's also a big piece of that as well. So that was the last piece of the bill. But what we done with this, the other piece was to target those 90% of people that weren't applying. That's why we're doing this heal people, to get to those people who don't know about applying for applications. And so that's going to be one of the measurables that we're going to be looking at too over this year. Is not just if we've improved by reducing the denial rate, but have we improved by increasing the amount of people that are actually applying?
Wow. You all, now the moms, now the other organization that is partnering with you all, tell us a little bit about them, because I imagine that there are plenty of people that have dealt with this situation, that have needed them and that are involved with them. So tell us a little bit about that a little bit.
So Mothers Over Murder, they are a grief action group. We have monthly meetings. We have actually 2 meetings a month. We have one on Zoom and one in person. Right now we're in Memphis. We're in Memphis, Murfreesboro, and Nashville. But our Zoom meetings, we take in people from all over the country. We have people from Texas and Colorado. We are looking to bring a chapter to in person to Chattanooga.
Oh, you all listen out there. You all want to start a Moms Over Murder chapter in Chattanooga? You know we open to it in Chattanooga. We're the friendly city.
And unfortunately, since I started, when we started planning this conference, and the purpose of the conference was not for Mothers Over Murder, TADP, and whoever those system people are, just to come and tell people what they need. That wasn't going to offer no benefit. The purpose of Healed People, and the reason why it's called Healed People, Heal People, is to focus on the healed people, that we are healing people. So those are the voices of the impacted people. Those closest to the problem are those closest to the solution. So on day one in that victims education workshop, we're not only going to have people here that's going to be educating us on how to apply, we're also going to be uplifting the voices of those victims who are going to be telling their stories of what they have gone through and how they have encountered navigating this their grief, and also navigating this application process. So we're looking forward to uplifting those victims. On day 2, as we talked about, that in order to, a lot of times we talk about public safety, we imagine this as a zillion police officers in the neighborhood that are arresting people. However, when you're arresting 65% to 70% of the people for nonviolent offenses, that's not really doing anything but further damaging your communities. And so day 2 of the conference is where we reimagine public safety, and we call on the community to be the cavalry. We're going to uplift the voices of those victims and those people that have been impacted. And we're going to uplift the voices of individuals who are already on boots on the ground, organizations like 423 Train Breakers, organizations like the Brave Effect, and other community advocates. Caleb is part of this conference that are already doing work in the community. We're going to bring that information to the forefront so that our community members can know what resources are out there and who they can join in with to keep our community safe, because we are the cavalry. We can keep our community safe. We can do that.
I am so excited. And I'm going to say I'm extremely excited and ecstatic about the fact that you all are doing this great work all over the state of Tennessee, and that this work is also all over the country. And I'm just thrilled and excited and cannot wait for Friday. I cannot wait. So on Friday, now, do people have to register to come to this
Yes,
event?
yes. We
Tell
do
us
need
about how
people
they
to
can
register.
register. Where do they need to email or call or text? Can you put that on the screen for the listeners out there? I'm talking to my engineers now as she gives the information. So tell us how they can get registered for the event.
They can go to tnhealpeoplecampaign.org to register. They can call me 615-917-7961. They can email me at Rafiah@TennesseeDeathPenalty.org. And those are multiple ways. But the best way is to register at tnhealpeople.org. That'll get your name right on there. Now, that doesn't mean you can't show up if you didn't register. We will accept walk-ins, although you might not get fed. The purpose of the RSVPs is to make sure we have enough food. We are having this event catered on Friday. We got dinner being catered. I'm not going to tell you what the menu is, but I can't wait.
Oh, wow. Y'all heard that. When you say food, people come out. Y'all know they're going to feed you now. So come
Yeah.
on and get fed with food for your stomach and food for your mind and food for your soul. You all come out next week. Next week is tomorrow. So this Friday coming up and this Saturday is going down in Chattanooga with the Tennessee Heal People campaign. And we are going to hopefully open up more opportunities for families who are victims of crime and murder in particular to come together and be healed.
Oh, I got one more thing. And there's going to be some of the organizations that are working with us that's going to be there. They are going to be giving out $50 Visa gift cards. So randomly throughout the events, there will be quite a few gift cards that are going to be just handed out to people, and to be used on however you need. If you need to pay a bill with the $50, buy some groceries, or go and do some self-care, you have the opportunity to win a $50 gift card. So, and it's not just one.
I'm going to throw something else.
And the more organizations that participate are the more organizations that can bring gift cards. What you got right there?
Girl, I got 2 free tickets for you to raffle that night.
Okay.
If you all, not raffle, but to put their names in a basket to pull. These are 2 $75 tickets. It's worth $150.
Oh my God.
If you want to go to the 2024 Chattanooga Humanitarian Award Banquet, these tickets are worth $75 each. I want you all to come out that bad.
Oh my God.
This event on Friday and Saturday. We'll get one away on Friday and one away on Saturday.
Okay.
For someone to come and be blessed. because this is our 10th annual. We've been doing this for 10 years, and y'all, it's going to be an amazing celebration of 6 people who have did miraculous, amazing things to serve mankind, especially the underserved community throughout the city of Chattanooga and the state, and some globally around the world. We have some great people. We're going to post it up on our website. It's going to be in the newspaper too, all of our honorees. We've got some honorees who are on the celebrity level that will be in the house. In fact, I talked to Mariah Huck, who is the graduate of Brainerd High School, who is the, I guess you would say, the brainchild of Merit to Medicine. Last night, they'll be in the house in full effect. The governor, the city mayor, and the county mayor have proclamations and certifications of appreciation for all the great work that they've done to improve the quality of life of mankind and throughout this great city and state of Tennessee and throughout the country. So this is going to be one that you don't want to miss. We got a live band. The food is catered, delicious food, and definitely the entertainment and all of the beautiful celebration atmosphere that's going to be going on. You don't want to miss it. 2 tickets on behalf of Alton Park Development Corporation will be available, one on Friday at this event that you're hosting and one on Saturday for you to give away.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. We are so thankful for that. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yes. So is there anything else you want the audience to know? There's people that want to get involved. How do they get involved? They can get involved, I guess. I don't know. You just tell them. I don't know. How do they get
Yeah.
involved?
You can go to Tennesseans for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. We have a website. You can go on there to get involved. Definitely showing up to the conference is the best way of getting involved.
Yeah.
But we love if you could spread the word through your social media, and just letting you know that your voice matters. Even in these streets, your voice matters, whether you're advocating for policy change or you're simply supporting someone who's been affected by violence. I met this young lady over at Wheeler Park, Wheeler Homes.
Yes,
And
Emma Willie. They know Emma Wheeler Home. They know where that is.
I met this young lady in Wheeler Homes, and she don't even realize how big. She kept asking, "What can I do? What can I do? I want to be doing something. I want to be." I said, "The way you just, how many people that she took me to meet. The fact that she says, I support. I just try to be here for everybody. That's a piece right there. Is what you can do. So don't diminish the things that you are doing. We just have to always keep striving to walk in God's path, to treat people like we want to be treated, how we want to be treated. Goes a long way. All those things reduce violence. But I want people to understand that healing is possible and your voice matters.
Yes. So everybody has had somebody in their family or someone close to them, whether it's a friend or someone that they work with, or just someone in general that they know that have been affected by violent crimes. So this is something we all can get involved with, and we're going to do that. We're going to hopefully this event that you're having, this conference that you're having next week, will pull them out. We definitely want to get our legislators and the people who have the power to make changes in our community and be of help to victims, and not only the people who are victims of the crime, but I think it goes both ways. The families that committed the crime are victims, and the families that actually were victimized. So we want to help both sides, and I appreciate what you're doing. It took courage as a mother who lost her son to reach back to the person that caused this harm on you and your family, to reach out to them and pull them in and care enough to get them restored. And I want to thank you and thank God for the vision and what he put in your heart and mind to do. And look at what you're doing throughout the state of Tennessee, and definitely you're here in Chattanooga, where we like to say it can start here, it can end here. This is where it starts, or this is where it ends. So we want you to be here next Friday and Saturday, people. Get everybody out. I'm going to be here. I'm going to break dance here from Georgia to make sure that I'm here to be a part of this great event. And And we look forward to seeing all of you. You know, today is Saturday. That means tomorrow is Sunday. And you know how I end my show. Go out and find a church home somewhere where you can praise the Lord and give him thanks for all the great and wonderful things that he has done for you in your life. And you know what? Today, you don't even have to go to church if you can't get there, because most churches are live streaming. You can watch church or participate in service right from your own bedroom, the kitchen, anywhere in your house. But do give the Lord some time. And we should be praising the Lord 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We should always praise the Lord. But on Sunday, tomorrow, you can really exercise it loud and clear. And I thank you all. I thank you all for listening to us. You're always welcome. Always welcome to Greater Emmanuel Apostolic Church, where the pastor, Paul Warfield Jr., is our senior pastor. And we open our arms up to you as you come to those front doors. So you're always welcome to have church with us. And I look forward to seeing you all next weekend. Definitely Friday and Saturday. I'll be back on the show Saturday, even though your activity is going to be going on. You never know. We may do some live streaming next weekend. So I love you. Yes, I love you, sister. Thank you for doing all the great work. And I look forward to seeing you next Friday.
All right. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yes. Thank you all. See you next weekend.